What's up, hobby friends? My name is Casey and welcome to another miniature rescue. This week, I picked up a fantastic 2nd edition Warhammer box of Space Wolf Blood Claws that are in some serious need of attention. Over the last couple of years, I've been painting an absolute ton of Warhammer 40k models. It's not something that I anticipated while jumping back into the miniature painting hobby. While I did start in the hobby with Warhammer 40k, I came back because Age of Sigmar was doing something really great, and I just couldn't pass that up. Still, it didn't take long for 40k to not so much sneak its way back in, but absolutely pummel its way onto my hobby desk. And I have noticed something of a pattern for myself as well. While I don't like most of the Space Marines from 40k, the Space Wolf faction stands out amongst the plethora of options, and I find myself looking into them more often than other models. For me, the unique sculpts that come with these models make them a rather fun choice to paint when it comes to Space Marines. They have extra sculpted details on the models and different hair and face options. On top of that, the armor can vary depending on the year that the models were released and who painted them. They look great with gray armor and yellow and red accents, and alternatively, warm gold against the cold gray armor tells a completely different story, but still works. For all of these reasons, they are fantastic models to pick up used because they give you a good variety, especially for being Space Marines. I've been wanting to get some older 2nd edition Marines for some time, and this week I finally picked up a fantastic box set of 2nd edition Space Wolf Blood Claws, a unique half metal, half plastic kit that shows off the Space Wolf's armor and extra details. I spent a decent amount of money on these because they're a bit hard to come by as a completed set, and I was looking for something to get as kind of a treat for myself. Still, I ended up paying less than the average price because these are in kind of rough shape. Lots of the parts and pieces have been broken off, there is excess glue on quite a few of the weapons and shoulder pads, and the paint is thick. On the better news side of things, I'm pretty sure that all of the original parts are here, at least as far as I know right now. And even the paper banners have survived mostly intact. The plan for these models is pretty simple. Remove all the glue and old paint, clean the mold lines on the metal and plastic parts, create new bases that go with my existing collection of older Space Wolves, and paint this squad to match. The first thing I need to do is get these models into my sonic cleaner and start removing the paint. Because there is a mix of metal and plastic, an acetone bath will not be an option. I'm not even 100% sure which parts are metal and which parts are plastic, so I really don't want to risk it by just throwing the whole thing in acetone and seeing what happens. So today I am using a Vevor 6-liter ultrasonic cleaner filled with LA's Totally Awesome, a concentrated degreaser that works incredibly well for cleaning off plastic and metal. I set the timer for 25 minutes and heated the solution to a toasty 50 degrees Celsius. The paint gets soft and starts to lift away from the models, which makes it easy to just brush it all away with a toothbrush. As a nifty side note, I used a mesh ball tea strainer to hold all of these small broken pieces. Did a great job at keeping them all from being lost at the bottom of the sonic cleaner or falling into the drain hole, more importantly, and they all got a good wash. Definitely worth picking up if you have lots of little parts that need to be cleaned all at once. With the help of FlexiSpot, I've been building the best possible hobby setup that I can. They sent me a new E7 Plus table, and it has been an incredible addition to my hobby room. The E7 Plus that they sent over is the extra large version, 80 by 30 to be precise. I've been needing a middle of the room game table solution for a while. The size is perfect as a work table for larger hobby projects, and it doubles as a gaming table that can hold all of the models and extras that you would need to play. The table was very easy to assemble and came with everything labeled and ready to go right out of the box, something that I've always appreciated about FlexiSpot. For hobbying and gaming, I can't think of a better table. Not having to struggle bending over short folding tables or that old card table from your closet, being able to get into an ergonomic position for painting or building, and having the option to go this big is such a huge deal. The stability is also something to note. If you accidentally bump the table or somehow fall into it, it's not going anywhere, which means your project won't be going anywhere either. Not losing any bits today, that's for sure. The E7 has a 540-pound static capacity, 4-legged, rock-solid stability, a keypad with a USB charger, and a sweet 15-year warranty. FlexiSpot also recently sent me their auto incline walking treadmill to check out. More often than not, our hobby has us sitting for long periods of time, and that's probably the one actual downside to painting minis as much as we tend to do. But now, I can walk and browse eBay at the same time. Boasting 9 levels of incline, a 275-pound capacity, built-in Bluetooth speaker, and a 2-year warranty. This under-the-desk treadmill is something that I could really get used to. It's comfortable to walk on, and combined with a standing desk, is pretty easy to forget that you're walking miles and getting things done at the same time. It's also easy to move and store out of the way. There are wheels on one end and a handle on the other that make it very portable. So when it's time to sit down and paint some minis, you will be ready to go in no time. Check out the links in the description and pinned comment below and use my promo code to get $50 off of the premium desks. Thanks again FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to those minis. Now that everything has been scrubbed, I can come in with an X-Acto knife and remove mold lines and clean up all the excess glue on the plastic parts. Unfortunately, with mixed kits like this, where the main body is metal and the rest of the kit is plastic, there's a ton of potential for glue overuse. Sometimes it's hard to stick metal to plastic with super glue. It can take a few seconds to create a proper bond, and the instinct that many of us have is to just use more glue. Super glue works by creating bonds between materials as it takes in water from the air. If you spread it too thin or you don't hold it long enough for those bonds to form, it'll be weak or it won't work at all. So you want enough glue to fill the space, but not enough to spill out of the sides. It's a delicate balance sometimes, which is why for plastic models, most people prefer plastic glue. Either way, too much glue means a ton of excess, and that fills gaps and can ruin parts in the model. The metal pieces clean up with no problem. Glue can be cut away without hurting the model, but on some of the plastic pieces, it was really difficult to get in and clean all of that glue. I cut away as much as I could without damaging anything, but some of the parts still have problems from where the original owner tried to convert some of those models or maybe stick them back together after they broke. The more I work on these, the more issues I'm actually noticing. This isn't really a complete set of original models. Technically, they are original, I'll say, but there are 3 missing sculpts from this set of 10. Some of the poses are identical, which kind of sucks. But I guess that means I'll need to find the other ones on eBay for another time, which I'm not entirely sad about. Hunting for the 3 missing models is gonna be pretty fun, and at least we have a set of 10 models that still look really good, and are from the same kit, technically. The other issue is that some of the parts were cut into. The swords and axes have all been cut or broken, and the majority of the guns have been shaved down. It's kind of a mess, and to be honest, I am a bit disappointed, but we'll just have to figure it out. One way or another, these need to get put back together and be playable models again. I want to keep these as original as possible, but if we have to put other parts in, then that's just what we have to do. To finish off the metal bodies, I use my Dremel with a wire brush attachment to clean and shine up the surfaces to get ready for paint. Then I cut off the metal tabs, oh no, and drilled pinholes into each of the model's feet. With pins in their feet, I can easily attach each model to a wooden dowel painting handle and paint it separately from the awesome base toppers I'm making for these models. To fit into my existing collection of space bolts, which admittedly is very small right now, I want them all to be on these really great base toppers from Great Tide Studios. The bases get printed out and glued onto slightly larger 32mm bases. I still want to use these models in games, and at this point, they really can't be on 25mm bases anymore. 32 has become the new standard for most Space Marines. Plus, they look pretty nice on this size, so I'm alright with that. The bases get a dry brush of dark gray that covers the black primer, a mid-tone gray for a majority of the surfaces, just leaving the deeper recesses, and finally a light gray to pick up the details. Some orange-brown pigment powder gets brushed mostly onto the base of any rubble that's showing, just to bring in some color, and then I fill in all the filigree with Vallejo metal color gold. Next, I'll lay down some grass tufts of darker green and apply a little bit of bright yellow-green static grass around those tufts. And finally, some verdigris around that filigree and into some of the recesses of the stone to give it all a more weathered look. Keeping things pretty simple like this is perfect for building an army. Looks much nicer than sand and texture dry brushed with kind of gray. And I can make a ton of these whenever I need. And Grey Tide sells a variety of sizes, so it's not really an issue getting new ones if I absolutely need them. Alright, now that the bases are done, I can get to work on the models. Everything is put together and I prime them black. I'm going to use a pretty straightforward color scheme that keeps the original colors but also updates them to what we usually see today and what I have used more recently for my personal collection. The armor will be done with a dark blue-gray followed by a mid-tone blue-gray and highlighted on the head and backpack and legs with a pretty bright blue-gray. For the most part, I want to cover the black. I really don't want the armor to have a huge shift from the brightest highlight to the darkest shadow. So the first base coat will be an all-over coat while the mid-tone will almost cover everything, but the most opaque from the top down. That way the shadows aren't too dark and the armor looks a little more even all over. The highlights will bring out the features and there should be enough contrast to give us nice gradients on each of the panels. Once the base coats are done, I can start getting color onto these models. I set everything up in an assembly line and I got all the shoulder pads masked off with silly putty. The base color for the pads is a rich yellow, followed by a little highlight of light yellow on top, and I finish them off with a gradient of orange-brown about halfway down. Pull away the silly putty and you get a pretty nice looking shoulder pad. Although, some of these models I didn't quite tighten up the silly putty very much and there's some overspray, which luckily I was able to take care of with some of the mid-tone blue-gray. So not a huge deal, but could have been avoided. Alternatively, not gluing the arms on at all would have made this process a lot easier. Probably do that next time. From here, I'm going to start putting on the rest of the base coats. I use a purple-brown for all the fur that matches my existing collection. It's a nice color that can also double as a base coat for leather, and they all have leather pouches, so those get hit as well. Then, again, to match my existing collection, I bring in some gold instead of yellow. This covers all of the aquillas and a whole bunch of the decorative pieces across all of the models, and it takes care of the shoulder pad trim. I like the gold because it looks great as an accent, and it feels more like a modern paint job. At the same time, it's still yellow, so it's kind of a callback to the older stuff as well. It's a good overall fit for bringing these onto the table and still keep them looking like they belong in an army while maintaining the classic look. After gold will come red. There's lots of little red details on these models. The blood claw emblem is in a few different places, and most of the weapons and holsters are red, including the actual red claws. It's a nice accent color, and if you pair it with black and silver, it has the same feel as the gold, that classic-y kind of look while maintaining the newer aesthetic. Silver for all the rest of the metallic details, mostly hoses and gun barrels. On the sergeant model with no helmet, he gets a nice bit of orange for his fancy hair, some darker orange as a base, and a fiery orange overbrush on top. His face gets a coat of mid-tone pink for now, and then I take care of some grenades that most of the models carry with a quick coat of dark green. It is important to note at this stage, and with pretty much every mini you're ever going to paint, that things don't always look as good as you think, kind of in the middle. The ugly stage is real, and you just need to keep painting in order to get past it. Lay down some base coats, refine, layer, refine, and that's what I'm gonna do now. I can go back and touch things up that didn't cover all the way, and start to layer on more colors to refine the shapes and make them look more how I want. The face gets some reddish purple in the shadows, and I can layer on a lighter pink skin tone over the top to really bring out more of those details. Back and forth with these colors to push contrast and refine the shapes until I'm happy with the results. That reddish purple is also a really great addition for the hair. It takes the orange down a bit, and I can use that fiery orange to highlight the top of the hair and mustache so it looks like there's a little bit more volume and movement. All of the models go through this process, one color at a time, and after I'm pretty happy with where the paint is, I can get out the black oil wash to give these models that extra punch of contrast. A black oil wash can be applied heavily and will run into all the cracks and recesses of a model. It takes a while to dry, but it can really help bring out the details, so it's really worth doing. An all-over coat of this is applied, and then I can wipe away any excess that I don't want with a makeup sponge. As you can see, the oil wash spreads out as soon as it hits the model and gives it an almost comic book appearance. If it's too dark in one area, then it can be moved or wicked away with the brush, and even then, it can all be removed with a makeup sponge and some mineral spirits, so you always have control over the outcome. I almost forgot all of their knee pads too. They all have yellow knee pads that are supposed to have red claw marks on them, so I came in with some of that rich yellow to do a few thin coats on the knees. Then with red I can draw in some of the claw marks. Now that these models are in a pretty good place, I can transfer them from their wooden dowels to their bases. To do this, I'm going to use the pin that I made for the dowels and drill the hole to fit into the bases. That way the models are pinned to the resin toppers and their pins go all the way through that and the plastic base. These are going to be pretty secure. And after getting them glued down, I came in with some black paint to do the base rims, pretty much finishing these models, at least for now. The very last thing to do will be the banners. I decided that I wanted to fix up the original paper banners a bit because they're not exactly easy to get a hold of. I really do wish that GW would just have these up somewhere on their website to print out. Really, it would make life so much easier. That being said, I have found an independent source that has a ton of banners, if not all of them. I don't actually know, but there are a lot. And I will link that in the description below. These banners were in there, so I can print them if I absolutely need to, but let's try and fix the originals. To do that, I'm going to use some black ink to cover the frayed edges, which should help keep them looking a little newer. I also use some burnt umber ink to give them a bit of color and weathering, making them feel a little more realistic than just paper. And all in all, it's not a lot, but it does bring these back to life a bit, and they're original, so that's pretty cool. Space Wolves have some uniquely awesome models when it comes to Space Marines, and the fact that they've been going this hard since the early 90s is a testament to how well they're actually designed. These Blood Claws are fantastic models, with just enough stuff sculpted onto them to keep and not be overwhelming. My set was slightly converted and is missing a few of the original sculpts, and that's okay. They're unique to me, and I'm really happy with the way that they look. That also means that hunting for the missing sculpts and parts will be really fun, and I can't wait to see how that goes. You really never know what you're going to find in a bin of bits or in a random lot on eBay, or when you're going to end up with the right stuff. But whatever happens, the hunt is still one of my favorite parts about this hobby. So thank you again for joining me on another miniature rescue. If you like something about this video, please consider hitting that like button, sharing this video with your hobby friends, and subscribing for more miniature rescues. Once again, I'm Casey, and I will see you in the next video. And of course, here are the completed 2nd edition Space Wolf Blood Claws. Thanks again for watching.